Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. Thursday night, dressed up again for you. It's become a habit. I come home from going out on Thursday night, can't go to sleep, so I decided to come back here and film a video. And today is kind of a fun video. Well, first of all, if you like this shirt, I made this shirt myself. I used to have a clothing line. Actually, I went in, my friend Doug, who you've seen in my other videos, maybe I'll pop up a graphic, one of the videos that feature him and his great room. He's also was a business partner of mine with a clothing line we did way back 2007, 2008, right before the recession when every boutique went out of business. So monetarily wasn't too successful. We didn't stay in it very long, but we were successful at getting quite a few celebrities to wear our stuff. People from Joe Rogan to Dana White, A-Rod, Ace Young, Chris Daughtry, all these American Idol people were on TV wearing some of our designs, and some female celebrities too. So maybe I'll put up some pictures, but I know you're not here for clothing line stuff. I got some other good stuff for you. Oh, and the other person I saw out tonight was Stephanie, the female audiophile who I've featured in prior videos. And she has got her own playlist I created on the channel. So you can check out, maybe I'll put a little excerpt from tonight. Unfortunately, she's moving out of Houston, so I won't be able to feature her in many videos. She's going to LA. And yeah, the opposite, going from Texas to California is a little bit rare right now. So I won't see her till probably Long Beach audio show, that the home entertainment show announced that they're doing that in June. So I'll definitely be at that. She was at the show last time and I featured her in some videos. So those have been following along and wondering where she's been. That's a quick update on her. The other thing I wanted to quickly update you on, housekeeping stuff before I get to the juicy stuff, is I created a website for this channel called audiophilejunkie.com. And the reason I did that is because my subscriber base increased recently with the Florida audio show. It's still pretty low, but I get now, because I put my email address in every description, I get a fair amount of emails now from people asking, most commonly, some things on controversial topics, which I'll get to in a little bit, at least somewhat. But a lot of people ask, as they watch some of my videos, whether it was on vibration control, subwoofers, some tweaks or accessories, like, where did you get this? Where do you get that? If they see in the videos. And so to make it easier for me to respond instead of the same emails every time, I'm putting together a website. I have a website development company that I do on the side. I can easily put up a basic website, and it will have links to all these different products you've seen in my videos, mostly the tweaks, the accessories, some gear, cables, anything that I've actually bought. These are going to be legitimate things that are on my Amazon ordered list for myself. These aren't just random affiliate marketing links to try to, that I use for a few months or whatever. These are things that I bought and used and will be on this website. So I'll have one place, and they'll have categories as well, so you can navigate and try to find anything that I've either owned in the past or I know very well from either my friends owning it or trying it or something like that. And that'll make it a lot easier for me and hopefully for you as well. The other thing, talking about tubes from Russia, seem to be a concern in the industry right now. Where are you going to get your tubes? I went into my closet because I used to have tons of tube gear, tube preamp, tube amp, tube DAC. I used to have probably close to 30 to 40 tubes in my entire system. So again, I've tried the whole tube route for those that were wondering. And I still have some in reserve but I don't need them. So I was going to offer them up to subscribers first before I put them on eBay or AudioGone. And mostly what I have that's from Russia, which would be the rare stuff, would be the Wing C 6550s that were used in audio research, Ref 110 amps, among others. And it's got the hours on them, and I can put these on the tube tester over at 3MA if you guys are interested. I've got about 8 of these. And then the 6H30s, these small Sovtech, these are match sets as well. So I think I've got about 4 of these. So if anybody's interested, let me know. I'll cut a better deal for subscribers than I would to eBay or AudioGone or something like that. Now, getting on to the juicy part of this video is something I noticed on my flight back from Vegas is that I was watching videos, and what it shows is who's watching your videos, what other things are they watching. And it seems like, and then I noticed that my Dendo Hoyt stuff doesn't get as many views. I thought it was great covers, great talent. But what I really noticed is that what a lot of people in the hobby like right now is to watch some of the drama and some of the infighting and whatever you want to call it in the hobby. And I get it. It's clickbait. I raised my hand. I like to watch that stuff too. I enjoyed it. And I did in a previous video briefly touch on the drama regarding Danny Ritchie. I didn't create a separate video on it. I probably should for clickbait purposes, but it was in one of my headphone amp and headphone reviews. So I'll put it up here in case you want to watch that. I addressed the Danny Ritchie thing a little bit, and that's kind of died down now. Although while I was in Vegas, I was watching this one guy who was calling out Danny, still on that same topic, and called him delusional and elitist and all this kind of stuff. And again, not to get in the weeds here or get involved, but I can understand people being upset with Danny from the standpoint of it came across as narcissistic and probably not the right way to go about what his call out was. But is there any way to go out about a call out? You know, he was probably as passive aggressive and nice about it as you could. But yeah, I definitely see where it rubbed people the wrong way. But what this particular guy I was watching, what was kind of funny, is that I'm watching him and he's trying to make excuses for everything Danny said and counter everything he said. But at the end of the day, when I was watching it, it just seemed like he's more worried about telling Danny, stay in your lane, don't bust our chops on this, because almost everything he was saying was almost admitting that what Danny was calling out was true. I mean, he was talking about, I got into the reviewing on YouTube so I could get speakers, as many speakers as possible to review and try myself, and he even admitted that they get to keep about 20% of them, and they're doing the people a favor by keeping them because the manufacturers don't want them shipped back. You know, it was kind of a pretty weak counterpoint, because at the end of the day, I was just saying, this guy's just, making the same point that Danny made, that a lot of these guys are in it for, look, I'm not going to say the wrong reason. Anybody would like to get some of this free gear. When I was new in the hobby, that would be a dream to do that kind of gig. It's not what I'm interested in, not what I'm interested in doing the channel myself anymore. The last thing I want to do is take in new speakers and have to move things around and lug them up here. I'm not interested in that, but I definitely get why people want to do that. And if they're successful doing it and they've got a following and they got people that like it, I'm not going to, why would I complain? It's not a contest here. If people enjoy it, that's fine. But his comeback to Danny did not really impress me in terms of countering some of the things that Danny brought up. But that being said, that argument has died down. And actually, another drama-filled thing I've noticed recently had to do with two different parties. It had to do with Amir with Audio Science Review and PS Audio regarding this P12 power plant. And if you are familiar with Amir and Audio Science Review, he does a lot of objective measurements and judges equipment on that basis. Not solely. A lot of people get this wrong and think that he doesn't do listening tests and doesn't apply the subjective side. You can find where he has actually countered what his measurement said, and subjectively he liked, I think it was a pair of Focal headphones, or no, it was some B&W desktop speaker, or the Wilson speaker, that's what it was, that didn't measure that well, but he liked the Wilson small speaker anyway, despite the measurement subjectively. So he does have his haters and detractors, and I've also said myself that sometimes ranking something at 130 dB signal to noise versus 135 is really irrelevant. But I think there's a great place for him in the hobby, and what he did to review the PS Audio power plant, I really didn't have any problems with what he was doing. And he broke it down, and then kudos to him. A lot of people, after they saw the first video, made commentary of questioning his measurement techniques or what he didn't measure, and he was willing to go back and measure more and show, take in that feedback and do even more measurements. And quite frankly, the second video he did, I think, was more damning to PS Audio than the first one, because it also involved the fact that Paul McGowan of PS Audio jumped into the fray and really didn't even know what his own product did, at least on which outlets regulate the power or not. And that was kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you. And again, I'm not going to take sides in this. If you want to get in the membership section, I will go a little more detail there. But let me walk through when I watched PS Audio's most recent reply on the way home, I will walk you through what went through my head, and then you can pretty much deduce for yourself if you think my questioning is logical or not, and what your own conclusions do. I like to lead you to your own conclusions, and in many cases, you probably already figured this out. But the basis of the contention is we've got a power plant that's regenerating power, regulating the power, and most specifically, we're talking about going into amps, whether it be a good thing or bad thing, or reduce the power, does it help recharge the capacitors, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, when you're buying this stuff, especially you're spending $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on this stuff and taking up a large amount of real estate in your room with these products, you're going to want, at the end of the day, it just to sound better at the end. So whatever you do, it's got to impact the gear itself and the output of that gear. So as I was watching PS Audio do their response video, he did get the designer that knew a lot more about the product. So kudos to Paul on that. Kudos to him to admitting where he was wrong in his own reply. He got the designer and they started doing some math, doing some testing. They kind of used these multimeters in a Frankenstein fashion, and they hooked it up to a box of resistors and fans to kind of show what the power plant was doing and calculating the improvement in theory that was occurring per the multimeters. Here's the only thing the question I was asking myself the whole time, and maybe you thought of this, maybe you didn't, just to share with you. Okay, PS Audio makes amplifiers. Why didn't they just hook up the PS Audio power plant to one of their amplifiers and measure, in addition to all the stuff that they wanted to show there? That's fine, I'm okay with that. But why didn't they hook up an amplifier of their own and test the output of that amplifier to show that, yes, we actually make unregulated power supply amplifiers just like everybody else, although Magtech is one that does do that. And so you almost kind of wonder why PS Audio isn't like Magtech in making regulated power supply amplifiers, if they believe that that's a big advantage or not. But that's beside the point right now. They do offer this third-party power regenerator that quasi-regulates the power before it goes into your equipment like an amp. So in theory, if it's going to create a benefit, we can measure all the stuff in between to say, okay, yeah, it does regulate the power. It does change this, that, and the other. But does it change the actual amplifier output is really the crux of the matter for me. That's the question I kept asking. Where are those measurements? If you're going to go down the route of doing a whole video on the measurement side and not talk about subjective, so you're going to start talking about measurements and only concentrate on the measurements between your power plant and some jimmy rig box of resistors and fans, which is nothing that anybody's ever going to hook up anyway. You have your own amps you could have hooked it up to, and you could have tested the output to show how much better that amp now performs with your power plant. And even if they didn't want to use their own, I can understand. Paul, I think, has even said in some of his videos he uses Emotiva amps at his house. He could have brought one of those there and hooked it up to the power plant and showed that his power plant improved the Emotiva amp, the output. So my question is still, why didn't they do that? Are they going to do that? I'm going to keep an open mind, give them a chance to do maybe more videos. That's what I'm looking to see and hear, because you really cannot judge. I mean, if I'm building a server, I can double the amount of RAM, triple the amount of RAM, double the hard drive, double the processors. You know, some people actually do that with servers. They put 2 processors in the same box. For whatever reason, the theory is more is better sometimes, is not always true. But I don't want to get on that tangent right now. But you can do a lot of things that show tangibly in the measurements, like they calculated, that now I have more, or I have better, or I have faster, or I have this. But does it result in anything that's tangible, noticeable for all that price and stuff that you did on that to do this? Does it really result in anything? That's what I always ask myself, and that's how you can somewhat navigate the minefield out there, marketing, different philosophies. You always have to keep in mind what's important to you, and at the end of the day, if you just want something that does this theoretically and hope that it does an output with no proof of that, or you want to live in the subjective realm only for the output side, but use measurements for the in-between side, hey, whatever floats your boat. For me, I'd like to see measurements on the output of an actual amplifier showing where the regulated power improved it. Because quite frankly, Amir's measurements were pretty convincing that it wasn't going to do that, and it didn't do that with his testing. So that's one thing that, again, I'm staying as neutral as I can, but hopefully you're kind of understanding how you can navigate the world of audiophile BS. The other thing, though, that is even more, not troublesome to me, but common and kind of annoying is these videos that use clickbait for a title like, Do Cables Matter? And so I was watching one of those guys create another video about Do Cables Matter? And again, they're almost all the same. But this one was particularly the questions that I came up with, and see if it'll sync with you, is that he spent 30 minutes on this video on this topic, but really didn't talk that much at all about what he heard in terms of the difference of cables mattering. In fact, most of it was one sentence. He heard a difference, and that was it. He heard a difference with cables, and he heard a difference with cable elevators. That was the extent of what was explained in 30 minutes. The other half was superfluous introductory stuff. And then after that, it was just a lecture to everybody about being nice about this topic. And he was actually hedging himself. It might not work for everybody. Like, I've heard this stuff a million times. Okay. Can anybody just come right out, say exactly what they heard? In fact, if you've studied psychology, there's two things that I wish I would have been forced to study in college. I had to study it after the fact to learn finance and to manage my money, and then psychology. And once I studied that, I became a master at that. You can kind of navigate how to discern the motivations, but how people, the communication and the motivation behind it. Sometimes, as I've said in the past, the motivation behind either videos or even just normal communication may be insecurity, ego, narcissism, or legitimate information. It could be a minefield of different motivations behind the communication. So you have to look at the communication that was actually made to determine which of these factors or multiples of those factors went into that communication to you. And then you can then decide whether it's credible or not. To me, if you're going to create a 30-minute video that says Do Cables Matter, and all you're going to say is they made a difference, you didn't say positive or even negative, didn't even do that. And it wasn't even and then you don't say specifically what changed. Like, if I was looking for, same thing if I change settings in my DSP or crossover in my mini DSP SHT, I can put people down. I've got saved curves, and I can put people in my seat, and I can tell them, hey, on this song, at this point, when I play it at this volume, you're going to hear a difference from when I load this saved EQ curve versus this EQ curve. Here is how I improved it. But I'll be honest with them. On other songs, that minor change that I made, I didn't even hear it. It wasn't until I heard this song at this particular point in the song, and then what they hear will likely not require golden ears. I can hear it really easy, and I'm pretty sure almost anybody, even somebody's grandma, could hear what I'm talking about. And so that's what I would kind of look for when I'm watching these videos. You say it made a difference. Well, why are you not telling me things like, oh, I heard more decay in that cymbal. I heard more detail. The voice changed to be more three-dimensional or more forward or recessed, or, why weren't there any concrete details in that 30-minute video of what you heard? It would be like me creating a 30-minute video saying, I went to a McDonald's on Main Street and I went to a McDonald's on 5th Street, and the Big Macs were different. Okay? That communication is basically worthless. And it's even more worthless over a 30-minute time period where you dedicated a whole video to that topic. You're not communicating anything of value. Nothing that, well, was, how did it taste different? Was the difference even big? Was it just the size was a little bit different? What exactly were the differences that you heard? And when people have confidence 100% in what they heard, typically they will go into that detail, especially if you're, again, dedicating an entire video to it. If you're just doing anecdotal conversations, you're just shooting the conversation at a show, yeah, you might just be casually stuff. And, I'll probably be guilty of it as well. And I might just be more nebulous in terms of things I hear. But if you're going to talk about it for an entire video and all you say, and the topic of your video, and all you say is you heard a difference with no specifics, my question is, can you do a video that tells us the specifics? That's all I'm saying. I'm not doubting that you heard a difference. I'm not doubting that cables or cable elevators make a difference. I have my own opinions on that. And again, in the membership section, I test various power cords over the years and cable. I share a little bit more. I like to stay clear of all the controversy and stuff, but I'm trying to share with you when I watch other ones, the logic that I go through, and hopefully you've already know these things yourself, or if you don't, it will prevent you from making the same mistakes I made, because I will raise my hand. If I would have watched that Paul McGowan video 10, 15 years ago, I would have said, oh my God, I got to get one of these power plants. It's going to help recharge the capacitors faster in my amp. And I would have never thought about the ancillary question of, well, does the amp design already take that into account? Is that really going to make a difference to the output? Is it going to be noticeable? Am I going to get value for my $6,000? So those are all things that we got to be careful about getting neurotic about the wrong things. And people are quite clever in marketing and in every industry, not just audiophile, where you can trigger neurosis that is not valid. And so again, this video is more to share with you how to diagnose BS or questionable things, or at least ask the right questions for further follow-up so that you don't go down the wrong path or buy something that you'd be disappointed in, which I raise my hand. I've done that many times in the past. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If so, sign up, subscribe, become a member if you want for a little more juicy stuff, and I'll see you back here soon.